The intense heat continues to grip the nation, showing no sign of easing, with heat wave warnings in effect across most areas and tropical nights expected to persist throughout the week.
현재 전국 대부분 지역에 폭염 경보가 발효 중인 가운데 열대야가 이번 주 내내 지속될 것으로 예상되는 등 전국적으로 폭염이 누그러질 기미를 보이지 않고 있습니다.
Yeah, so if you look at the numbers, daytime temperatures today will also range all the way up to 37 degrees here in Seoul, 36 in Daejeon, down south, slightly cooler, 35 degrees down in Gwangju, Daegu, and on the east coast in Gangnam. But I think no amount of warning is enough to say that people who are vulnerable to this sort of weather, like the elderly, and if you have respiratory problems, for instance, other vulnerable groups should remain indoors, stay hydrated. Temperatures expected to reach 37 degrees in the capital, other regions throughout the day as well. But some showers in the Chungcheong region, southwestern Gyeonggi, hopefully to cool things down, but it looks like it's going to continue for the time being.
At least for the next couple of days.
Yeah.
Maybe by this weekend, they say the temperature might drop a little bit because of the indirect effect of typhoons in the Asian region. No direct effect, but, some indirect.
But it's all relative, right?
Yes, it
it's
is.
still going to, if you think of the actual feel, the real feel of the temperature with the humidity, it just makes for some suffocating conditions. So really wear, like you said, you have your umbrella, if you wear some UV if you're going out for extended periods of time. But if you do have to go out, avoid sort of the peak temperatures of between, I'd say, 11 and 3 p.m. when the sun is the hottest.
Yeah, and that's when we observe daytime highs. You mentioned that expression earlier on. 낮 최고 기온, daytime, one word, and then high, which means the highest temperature of the day. But normally, because we're talking about many different numbers, we'll say daytime highs in Korea will range between, 30-something and 37 degrees today. And it's going to probably continue that way for the next couple of days.
And of course, the lows are still really high. That's why we have these tropical nights.
That's right. In fact, the real feel for the evening in Seoul is already around 30 degrees, although it's just under 30 degrees, so not quite super tropical nights in Seoul, but it feels like that. So, we have tropical nights where the lowest temperature all night is 25 degrees, and then if it's over 30 degrees, then we call it a super tropical night.
Yes. And I'm looking at the KMA website, the Korea Meteorological Administration website, and it has here the actual temperature, but there's a feels like temperature on there as well.
Which is obviously much hotter.
Yeah.
Well, none of this is showing any signs of easing.
Yeah, so if something's easing, it means it's getting less intense, right?
Yeah.
So if there's no sign of easing, it means in a very difficult sort of situation, it's ongoing. It's not getting any better or improving. And it continues without slowing down. And we talk about this in weather, but also in terms of economic sort of contexts, as well as if there's a conflict in the news, if there's a war, there's no sign of easing in the violence, for instance.
Exactly. So it's a sort of like a difficult situation that gets easier, perhaps?
Perhaps, yeah.
Or in this case, the high temperatures are not going down?
Right. Because we're talking about the intensity of the heat. So the intensity of that heat is not slowing down. No, it's not coming down.
Right. And we use this for pain as well, don't we?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
If you're hurt or injured, the pain, there's no sign of easing. You should hurry up and go to the hospital and get it checked out.
Exactly. All right. 완화되다, ease, E-A-S-E. In this case, 완화될 기미가 없다. There's no sign of easing. Well, what about persisting?
Yeah, so to persist would mean to continue very firmly, sort of stubbornly in a given situation, especially if something's difficult or unpleasant. You could talk about people's behaviors are persisting, maybe a child who's misbehaving, that's persisting, or like you said, like an injury or a condition or the weather in this instance is continuing and it won't go away.
I guess you could use ease and persist in one sentence then.
Yeah. So if you're talking about the weather today,
It's persisting and it's showing no signs of easing.
Yeah.
But a persistent person can be, both a good thing or a bad thing.
It depends on the context. I'd say, right?
A persistent student, I think, is a good thing. You don't give up, you keep studying.
Yep. If you're a job applicant, for
Yeah.
example, and you're sort of persistent in terms of trying to get a new job,
Yeah. You're trying really, really hard,
yeah.
and you're not giving up.
But if in a negative context, if you are persistently late,
Yeah, that's
then
not good.
you might lose your job.
Oh,
in
yeah.
that case, right?
My goodness, exactly.
Yeah.
그래요. 계속해서 무언가를 할 때, 집요하게 무언가를 할 때, persistently를 쓸 수가 있고요. 동사로서 이렇게 계속 지속된다 할 때는 persist, P-E-R-S-I-S-T. The heat right now is persisting. Not just in Korea, all around the world pretty
Yeah, it
much, in the
appears like
northern
that.
hemisphere. Right, here's the headline again. The intense heat continues to grip the nation, showing no sign of easing, with heatwave warnings in effect across most areas and tropical nights expected to persist throughout the week. All right, let's move on to the next headline.
The number of foreign nationals residing in Korea for study, work, or tourism reached an all-time high of 2.7 million in June, according to the Ministry of Justice.
유학, 취업 혹은 관광 목적으로 국내에 체류 중인 외국인 수가 올해 6월 기준으로 사상 최고치인 270만 명 선에 도달했다고 법무부가 발표했습니다.
Yeah, so as of the end of last month, 2.73 million people reside in Korea, and that's a 1.5% increase from the end of May. And of that amount, about 2.1 million, so the vast majority are long-term residents here. And the remaining, about 620,000, are short-term visitors. And if you break it down by nationality, Chinese nationals comprise the largest group. In fact, nearly 1 million Chinese nationals currently reside in Korea, followed by Vietnamese, Americans, Thais, and Uzbeks.
So is reside like live?
It absolutely means to live. It's sort of a formal way to say to live in a specific place.
Yeah.
But it can also mean there's a different meaning. So the primary meaning would be to live, like you said. But if something just exists or is present in something, for example, the power to change this show resides with our producer, for example. But there is that sort of same meaning of living within.
Yeah. So it's basically 거주하다. That's the most frequently used meaning of the word reside. You could say, I reside in this neighborhood, or I reside in this country. But also, another meaning, as you said before, is like it exists.
Yeah.
Like 존재한다. That can be another meaning.
Right.
And, a house is also called a residence.
Residence, right.
Or an area where many people live is like a residential area.
Right, and the people who live here long-term are permanent residents with a different spelling, right?
Yes, that's
Same
right.
pronunciation, but different spelling.
That's a good point. 사람, 주민 할 때는요. resident, T로 끝나고요. 그 다음에 이제 S를 붙인 거죠. 사람이 여러 명이니까 residents. 그 다음에 주거지 할 때는 CE로 끝나서요. 발음이 똑같지만 스펠링 다릅니다.
Yeah.
All right. And to reach an all-time high. Now, we looked at high with the weather earlier on.
Yeah.
Talk about this other usage of it.
Yeah, we're still talking about a certain level, right?
Yeah,
so with the
yeah.
weather, of course, the temperature is at a high level. But here we're talking about the tally, the number of foreign residents here. So if something has reached an all-time high, it's increased to its highest level ever recorded. And here we're talking about demographics, but you hear this in sports all the time when a new milestone is reached, economics, always in the news.
So it's reaching a record, basically.
Reaching a record, yes.
어떤 기록을 세웠을 때 reach a record 라는 표현을 쓸 수가 있어요. In this case, 역대 최고치라는 단어 high 명사로 쓸 수 있습니다. Earlier on, we looked at highs for the nation's weather. So we could talk about highs today being 37 degrees or 38 degrees, wherever you are. So these all mean the highest number, basically. But it's just one word, high. And an all-time something means of all time or ever. So it's like 역대 최고치를 기록하다, reach an all-time high.
Yeah, and don't forget, all-time is an adjective here, so there's a hyphen in between that.
Great point.
Yeah.
Here's the headline again. The number of foreign nationals residing in Korea for study, work, or tourism reached an all-time high of 2.7 million in June, according to the Ministry of Justice.
Thousands of people have rallied in the Malaysian capital of Kuala Lumpur to demand the resignation of Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim as public discontent grows over rising living costs and allegations of failing to deliver promised reforms.
말레이시아 수도 쿠알라룸푸르에서 수천 명이 모여 안와르 이브라힘 총리의 퇴진을 요구하는 시위를 벌였습니다. 이는 물가 상승에 더해 현 정부가 개혁 공약을 이행하지 못한다고 믿는 대중의 불만이 커진 데 따른 것입니다.
Yeah, so when Prime Minister Ibrahim campaigned back in 2022, his platform was sort of this reformist platform to try and boost government revenue. But what he's been doing recently is he's been raising taxes, sales and service taxes. And people are afraid that this will lead to a rise in consumer prices. So what they've done is they've taken to the streets. They're wearing these T-shirts, bandanas with the slogan, "Step down, Anwar," written over them in the heart of Kuala Lumpur. Now, to try and ease sort of these tensions, the Prime Minister announced a sort of cash handout and increased aid for poor households, but it's not really quelling any worries of rising costs. And also there are allegations of corruption, judicial interference, because he ran on this anti-corruption platform, but prosecutors have actually dropped these corruption charges against several figures in his government.
Well, the police have estimated roughly 18,000 people to have taken part in the rallies.
Yep.
In English, 18,000 is still thousands. And so in Korean, we did actually say 수천명, but to be more technically correct, we should say 만명 이상.
Yeah.
But because we just have a different way of calculating numbers, that's where it gets tricky, right?
Right.
So it's roughly about 18,000명 that took part in the rally. But in English, again, we use thousands to count the numbers.
Yeah, you could say tens of thousands, but here,
That's
because
not even that.
it's below 20,000,
Yeah.
so I wouldn't say that either. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right, so a rally is a protest in this
Yep.
case, yeah. What about public discontent?
Yeah, so if you're discontent, that means you're unhappy, right? So if you have public discontent, that means the general public or maybe just a large group of people are feeling this sort of unhappiness, dissatisfaction, and frustration, right?
Public, 국민적인 discontent, 불만. If you're content, then you're happy, 만족스러워요. Not maybe 행복, but 만족한다.
Yeah, it's different from happy, I think. If you're
not happy,
content,
okay.
it's good enough.
It's good enough, yeah exactly.
Yeah.
But here we're talking about discontent.
Yeah.
So 불만, 국민적인 불만이 지금 쌓이고 한 모습. And failing to deliver.
Yeah, so if you fail to deliver, that means you did not deliver. You did not do what you promised or what was expected or required.
But the delivering here is not like, 택배 delivery, right?
No, it's not something tangible.
No.
It's these promises that were made that weren't kept. And it usually could be a person, like a political person, or it could be a company for not meeting sort of these goals, right? Stockholders or shareholders could be very discontent if the board or the CEO doesn't deliver on, let's say, for example, sales goals, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So deliver in this case, 이행하다, failing to deliver on something or just to deliver, promises, for example. 그러면 약속을 이행하지 못했다.
Yeah.
That's what it means. There was an animated children's show that I really loved showing my kids when they were younger. I believe it was shown all across the world, but it's a Korean animation. I believe EBS made it. So I think I'll just say it. Super Wings.
Okay.
So what I loved about this, at the end, they always say, we deliver. And what the planes do, because it's all planes. Planes are the main characters. They deliver parcels, but they also deliver other things. They deliver on their promises or, like we're seeing here. So it has two meanings.
There's the double entendre.
Yes, that's right. So I really loved that line at the end because they do have this animation in English as well. I remember showing it to my kids when I was briefly living in America many years ago. So it's, that's how deliver is used. You use it for promises, 약속을 이행하다, or parcels, 택배를 배달하다.
Yeah. So if a company said, if their slogan is "We deliver," that means that you can guarantee.
You can trust us.
You can trust us.
Yes, that's
exactly.
right.
Yes.
So if someone says "We deliver," not just someone, I guess, like an
Like an
a
organization.
company or something. If they say "We deliver," it can mean 우리는 배달합니다, but it can most likely, more oftentimes than not, mean that 우리는 약속을 지킵니다. So that's the other meaning that you can think of here. And in the case of Malaysia's prime minister, people are saying he did not deliver.
Allegedly.
Allegedly, of course,
Yes.
of course. All right, well, let me read the headline again. Thousands of people have rallied in the Malaysian capital of Kuala Lumpur to demand the resignation of Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim as public discontent grows over rising living costs and allegations of failing to deliver promised reforms. Let's move on to the next headline.
A new study has found that dogs can detect Parkinson's disease well before symptoms appear, likely due to elevated levels of musky-smelling sebum on the skin of those affected.
개의 후각을 활용해 파킨슨 병을 조기 발견할 수 있다는 연구 결과가 나왔습니다. 이는 발병 조건을 가진 사람에게서 특유의 냄새가 있는 피지의 양이 증가하기 때문인 것으로 보입니다.
Yeah, so the wonderment of dogs never
Yeah.
fails to amaze me here. So what this study did was they took 2 dogs that had been trained to detect odor samples of Parkinson's. And when they were presented with this, 130 people with Parkinson's and 175 without, they showed a sensitivity of up to 80%, which means that they were able to detect when 80% of the time when the people had it, but more important, they were also able to detect when they didn't have Parkinson's, and that was 98%. So that was near perfect in a way. So they call that a negativity, I think, reading in these studies, but it shows how good they are at ruling out people who do not have Parkinson's, because Parkinson's, we all know, is a very deadly disease. There's no early screening available for it. There could be warning signs years, even decades before the diagnosis, but timing is very key if you want to treat Parkinson's. And there have been very, very prominent people that have suffered from Parkinson's, namely Muhammad Ali is probably the first person that comes to mind.
Yeah. So if the dogs can detect Parkinson's well before the symptoms show, then hopefully that'll be a sort of breakthrough in being able to treat or prevent anything from getting worse, right? So what's well before?
Yeah, so we could say dogs can detect it before symptoms arise, but if you say well before, that means it's a good amount of time earlier than a particular point or event.
Not just before.
Not just before, not right before, but well before.
한참 전에, 훨씬 이전에, not just 이전에, but well before. So, dogs with their heightened sense of smell, they apparently can sense Parkinson's way before. That's another way of saying it.
Way before.
Way before
Yeah.
or well before the symptoms actually show.
Yeah. Way would be a little more casual,
It
I
is,
think, but
yeah.
well before a little more formal. For
That's
example, I arrive at the studio well before 8 o'clock and well before everyone else.
Yes, I believe that is true. Way is a little bit more casual, well is more formal, but they both mean a lot of time.
Significantly before.
Yeah,
yes.
significantly before. Okay, what about elevated?
Yeah, so if something's elevated, that means it's higher than normal or higher than usual, whether it be the level of something, the amount of something. And when you're talking about measurements or amounts, when you think of an elevator, it elevates you, right? You go up.
Yeah, exactly. Although you can also go down on an elevator, but the word itself actually only means to go up.
Yes.
So elevated means 더 높아진, 높은. It's something that's going up. Think of, anything that is elevated is higher than it was before.
Right. So, for example, my blood pressure all of a sudden elevated when I was scared or something like that.
Sure, that can happen. And musky smelling, 이거는, I guess it's really hard to describe what this is, but it's, would you say it's a sort of wooden smell?
Yeah. Musk actually comes from a deer. I believe it
okay.
is. It's if I'm not correct, it's a reddish sort of brown substance which is secreted by male deer for scent marking purposes.
Yeah.
But it's often used in perfumes and colognes.
Sure. It's a popular scent.
Yeah, and I understand it's a scent that Koreans are not very fond of. Other I think countries and other sort of ethnicities might use these sort of colognes more. It's a very pungent, sort of very thick smell, I think. Yeah.
Okay, interesting.
But I am generalizing, of course. Yeah.
All right. Well, let me read the headline again. A new study has found that dogs can detect Parkinson's disease well before symptoms appear, likely due to elevated levels of musky-smelling sebum on the skin of those affected.
Yeah. It also happens to be the name of one of the richest people in the world.
Oh, Elon Musk.
Yes, I didn't put those two together. In any case.
I didn't think of that either, actually. Okay, let's move on to the final headline.
Paleontologists have discovered a 247-million-year-old fossil of a reptile featuring a bizarre row of plume-like structures along its back that resemble feathers, even though the species is not closely related to birds.
2억 4,700만 년 전 파충류 화석에서 해당 종이 조류와 밀접한 관계가 없음에도 커다란 깃털처럼 생긴 특이한 구조가 등을 따라 자리 잡은 모습이 확인됐습니다.
Yeah. So when we talk about feathers, we normally talk about birds, right? That's one characteristic of the bird family. But what these scientists have done, they've discovered this reptile that has a feather-like sort of outgrowth on its back.
Right.
Here it's described as plume-like, right? A plume would be sort of feather-like, but it's not a feather. So they're wondering if there's a sort of relationship or how maybe they evolved.
Yeah,
from
exactly.
reptiles, perhaps?
A lot of the Korean articles have described the way this looks as a sort of 볕 모양, 볕 달린 파충류.
A pyot, like a
볕,
chicken.
Like a chicken's comb.
A rooster, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
우리 닭 볕처럼 이렇게 파충류 등에 볕처럼 생긴 것이 있다. That's how the Korean articles are describing it. But obviously it's not a bird. It doesn't have feathers. It just looks like it though. It looks like one big feather. To me, it kind of looked like a wing.
It almost looks like a shark's dorsal fin.
Maybe
right?
a fin. Yeah,
in that
exactly.
shape, or like a sailboat sail.
You're right.
But what they found was a fossil. So I've seen the sort of artist's rendition of it, but you're right. It looks like a sort of navigating feather.
All right. Well, it's very bizarre, isn't it?
It is very bizarre because it's very strange, unusual, or sort of surprising. So anything that's bizarre could be described as that.
B-I-Z-A-R-R-E, bizarre. 굉장히 특이하다.
Yeah.
이런 뜻이죠. It's strange, basically. It's not normal
Not
of what you would think of a
unusual,
dinosaur.
yeah.
Because it's a pa충류, as we said.
Right, and they describe it as plume-like, right?
Yeah.
Plume, which is feather-like, not to be confused with flume, which is the waterway.
Right.
Like hurumride, which is...
Is that how we say it in Korea?
Yeah,
I
if you
didn't
go to
know
an
that.
amusement park, hurumride, right?
그렇구나.
That's flume, F-L-U-M-E.
In English, flume. 그렇죠. 이렇게 물에 따라서
You're in a
이렇게
log.
슉 내려오는 거. 그렇죠. 이게 작은 배 모양으로 한 튜브 타가지고 이렇게 내려오는 거 있잖아요. 그러네요. 우리말로 후룸라이드라고 하는구나.
Yeah, but this is
영어로는
plume.
flume이에요. F-L-U-M-E.
Yeah.
근데 그거 말고요. 큰 깃털 같은 거. 우리가 이제 펜 같은 것도 있죠. 깃털로 된 펜. 이런 것들도 이제 plume으로 만들었다고 볼 수 있는데 큰 깃털. That's a P-L-U-M-E. Plume. So on this fossil, we can see a reptile with what looks like a plume, a feather, something quite big.
Yeah.
And it resembles feathers.
Yeah. So think of a peacock. Peacocks have plumes, right? So if something resembles something, it means it's similar in appearance, or not just appearance, but it could be their qualities, their personalities, or their character, right?
그래요. 뭐처럼 보인다, 비슷하다. It resembles a bird. It resembles feathers. But it's a reptile. So it's very bizarre. Let me read the headline again. Paleontologists have discovered a 247-million-year-old fossil of a reptile featuring a bizarre row of plume-like structures along its back that resemble feathers, even though the species is not closely related to birds. Well, that's it for the headlines with Shane Harm.
A new survey by Statistics Korea finds that Koreans sleep an average of 8 hours and 4 minutes per night and spend more than half of their leisure time watching media content.
통계청이 실시한 최근 조사에서 한국인은 하루 평균 수면 시간이 8시간 4분이며 여가 시간의 절반 이상을 방송, 동영상 등의 미디어 이용으로 보내는 것으로 나타났습니다. Alright, so let's talk about how many hours people sleep here in Korea and other stats. Tell us more.
Well, for those of us working at this hour and also for the listeners tuned in, we can kind of presume at least that we have woken up early, but are we getting enough sleep? So for Koreans, Statistics out of Statistics Korea says that Koreans on average slept about 8 hours, 4 minutes a day. And that is also on the up. No, excuse me, on the down. It's on the down. It's declining.
Yes.
So Koreans are getting less sleep now. Some of it can be explained by the media content that we consume. Koreans are watching about 3 hours a day, according to these statistics.
자, 5년 전에 비해서 수면 시간이 조금 줄었습니다. 한 8분가량인가요? So right now, this is based on data collected last year, but that is, basically what we're looking at
The most
currently.
recent data.
That's right. So Koreans in general sleep on average about 8 hours and 4 minutes as opposed to 8 hours and 15 minutes 5 years ago.
Right.
And then we have roughly about, I think it's 6 hours, 5 hours of leisure time a day.
Right.
And
So
of that,
5 hours of leisure time or free time, spare time, and of that, about 3 hours, like I said, is consuming media content.
그래요. 하루 평균 한국인의 여가 시간은 5시간 8분 정도라고 합니다. 그 중에 반 이상을 미디어 이용. 그러니까 여러 가지 동영상을 본다든지
Right.
이런저런 방송을 보면서 스트리밍도 여기 포함이 다 되겠죠.
It's all included.
Right. And
So-
what else do we know?
I don't know about you, Sue, but when I first came upon these statistics, I thought 8 hours a day is
It's quite a lot.
a lot.
But you have to remember that the people that were surveyed were 10 years and up. So we're
Okay.
including children.
Right, so we're including children
Yes.
and certainly teenagers
Yeah.
who incidentally are the group that sleeps they sleep the most. That makes sense because
Yeah.
they're growing and they're developing.
Yes.
But you're right, it is a wide age group. So that does make sense. But when I saw 8 hours, 4 minutes a day, I thought, wow, that's a lot of sleep. I don't remember when I slept that much.
That is very true. If this was a survey with only grown-ups, I feel like the number would be a lot smaller.
Right.
But yeah, it includes children. So, some children sleep 12 hours a day, 10 hours a day.
Right.
So if you get the average of that, and then maybe people like us who don't sleep quite as much, then
Right.
we get 8 hours.
Right, so on that note, guess who is the group that slept the least?
Oh, okay. You mean age group?
Right, age group.
Ooh, let's see. 30s?
Well, actually, it's people in their 50s.
50s.
At least according to these statistics,
Okay.
slept the least. They were logging about 7 hours and 40 minutes on an average night, which I still feel like sounds like a lot.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
maybe I am not getting enough sleep. So that's something I've been working on because sleep is definitely very, very important.
I'm with you.
So maybe it's something we need to put our cell phones down, our smartphones down, and get to bed earlier. I think that's true for me.
Exactly. 연령대별로 봤을 때는 50대가 수면 시간이 가장 적군요. All right, so let's have a look at the expressions here. Per night is the first one.
Per, P-E-R, comes originally from the Latin, and it's just another way to say for each. But we use this term often in everyday life. You can put any kind of block of time after it. Here in this story, we said per night. So every night or each night. But you can say per day.
Yep.
If you go to a hotel, you might pay per day, per night. If you drive a car, if you pay for parking, you have to pay per hour in Seoul. So you can almost put every type of block of time after per.
Right.
And it means that period of time, each of that period of time.
Per night. 2 words. 하룻밤에, 하루당. And as you said, you can put all sorts of words behind that. It's not just about time, though.
No.
We could say per person.
Right.
So how much does it cost per person? 1인당 얼마예요?
Right. How much does that buffet cost per person? You can also say per head.
Yeah.
When
it
we're
comes
talking
to
about the economy,
Yeah.
We'll say slightly fancier seeming words like per capita
Exactly.
to discuss the economy.
그렇죠. 그러니까 경제 용어에 들어갔을 때는 우리가 예를 들어서 뭐 1인당 국민소득 이런 얘기할 때 그때 1인당은 per person이 아니라 per capita, CAPITA 이렇게 쓰고요. 일반적으로 그냥 우리가 1인당이라는 것을 회화 속에서 쓸 때는 per person.
Right. When you fill out the census, you also answer for things that relate to your household. So you might say per household, how many cars per household, how many, how many people are working in that household, how many incomes per household, et cetera, et cetera.
Right. So here we're talking about how many hours people sleep every night. So per night. What about leisure time? You pronounce it differently.
Yes. So you said, I think, leisure time, leisure time, with the EI in leisure being pronounced more like a leisure time, basically refers to any time when you're not working,
Yeah.
Perhaps if you're a student, when you're not studying, when you're not occupied with responsibilities or duties, things that you have to do. So you're
Yeah.
free to relax, play, enjoy hobbies, do whatever you want.
Yeah. I feel like some words that we use in Korean that are originally English come from British English. So leisure is one of them. In Korea, we also say leisure,
Okay.
not leisure. But in America, you always say leisure, right?
Leisure,
Yeah,
only
not
leisure.
leisure.
No, I had never heard of
Right.
that until I came to Korea.
Exactly. And then there's another word, English word that we use in Korea, which is aluminium.
Oh, okay.
But in America, you say,
Aluminum.
so it's a different word.
Yes,
It sounds
there's
so different.
An entire syllable.
Yes.
That is
Well, in England, we
is
say
added.
aluminum, which is the same as in Korea. Aluminium. Sorry, no.
No,
I did it the American way.
I think you say aluminium, right?
Yes, sorry. I got confused. 영국에서는 한국과 똑같이 알루미늄이라고 하고요. 미국에서는 aluminum. 그래서 이렇게 미국식 영어와 영국식 영어가 다른데 몇몇 개의 외래어는 우리가 영국식 영어를 쓰더라고요.
okay.
Leisure is one of them. 그래요. So 여가 시간, leisure or leisure time. All right. Well, let me give you the headline one more time. A new survey by Statistics Korea finds that Koreans sleep an average of 8 hours and 4 minutes per night and spend more than half of their leisure time watching media content. Content, no S, we have to stress.
No S.
Two
in this
different words.
situation.
That's
yes.
right.
Unless you're talking about the contents of your purse or your bag, different items.
That's
but in this
right.
case, media content, singular.
Yep. Let's move on to headline number 2.
Eco-friendly vehicle registrations have surpassed 3 million for the first time, while the number of internal combustion engine vehicles has declined, bringing the total number of registered cars in Korea to 26 million as of the end of June.
올해 상반기 말 기준 국내 자동차 누적 등록 대수가 2,600만 대를 넘어섰습니다. 이 중 하이브리드, 전기, 수소차 등 친환경차 수가 처음으로 300만 대를 돌파한 반면 내연기관차 수는 감소한 것으로 집계됐습니다. Right. So more cars overall and more eco-friendly cars, less cars that are harmful to the environment.
Right. Supposedly. Yes, so according to data from the Transport Ministry, eco-friendly vehicle registrations are up. They've passed the 3 million mark, quite a big number, and that is driven by rising demand for hybrid cars and EVs, or electric vehicles. in my apartment complex, they did all this construction to remove the regular parking spots, and they've added the electric vehicle charging docks or charging stations. So you can kind of see around you sort of the shift in purchasing and the preference for these sort of eco-friendly vehicles.
Yeah. So I'm seeing that about 11% of the newly registered cars were EVs. So a lot more people than before are, looking to buy cars that are better for the environment.
Right. And I think at different times, and at different programs that the government runs, I know that there are stipends or different rebates or different programs that reward this eco-friendly purchase so that they encourage you to buy, cars that might be better for the environment versus gas cars or diesel cars.
We're talking about those especially diesel cars, I think, in particular, when we say internal combustion engine vehicles.
Right.
Does that include the gas?
Yes.
Okay. Just not the eco-friendly cars.
Exactly.
Right?
It's just a fancy way of saying basically not the eco-friendly cars. We're talking about sort of the old-fashioned regular gas or diesel cars.
Got it. 내연기관 차량 internal combustion engine vehicles. It's quite long, but it's exactly the same words in Korean.
Ah, okay.
And what about eco-friendly? We keep saying that. What is it?
Eco-friendly.
Yeah.
Oh, I love this topic. Eco-friendly. We try to make our household at home very eco-friendly as much as we can. Eco-friendly, it's a hyphenated adjective that describes products or practices or behaviors or habits that are not harmful to the environment.
Right.
That are not harmful to planet Earth. And not just not harmful, but hopefully good for planet Earth.
And I think it's okay to pronounce it eco-friendly as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
In this case, this is not a situation of British or American English.
No.
It's just both pronunciations are accepted.
Exactly. Eco-friendly, eco-friendly 다 가능합니다. 친환경적인 자, 다시 한번 제가 읽어볼게요. Eco-friendly vehicle registrations have surpassed 3 million for the first time, while the number of internal combustion engine vehicles has declined, bringing the total number of registered cars in Korea to 26 million as of the end of June.
An intense heat wave in the eastern Mediterranean region has left countries including Greece, Cyprus, Albania, and Turkey battling record-setting temperatures and extreme dry conditions that have triggered dozens of wildfires.
지중해 지역 동부를 덮친 극심한 폭염으로 인해 그리스, 키프로스, 알바니아, 튀르키예 같은 나라들이 기록적인 고온에 더해 수십 건 산불의 원인이 된 극도의 건조한 날씨와도 사투를 벌이고 있습니다. Tell us more.
It seems like this is a story that for the time being we cannot escape. We talked last week about weather extremes.
Yeah.
Flooding, we have the wildfires, extreme heat here in Asia as well. Over in the Mediterranean region, we have the situation as well. Turkey's environment ministry said that meteorologists, excuse me.
It's a difficult word, isn't it, that one?
It's a mumbly one.
Yeah.
Meteorologists had registered a reading of 50.5 degrees Celsius.
My goodness.
These days, I feel like we do see in the 40s.
Yeah.
But to tip the scale at 50 is really quite shocking. And for Turkey as well, this sets a new nationwide record. This was recorded in the city of Salopi in the southeast of the country near the border of Iraq and Syria. This breaks the previous heat record of 49.5 degrees Celsius. So it's just really just getting hotter and hotter.
Right. If a country battles these high temperatures, what's it doing?
Battle as a verb means to fight it. You are fighting it. You're at war with it. You are trying to counter it in a very, very strong way.
그렇죠. 싸우다의 의미가 있는데 여기서는 그만큼 고군분투한다든지 사투를 벌이는 굉장히 고생하는 모습이라고 생각하시면 되겠죠. Turkey and other countries, they are battling these very high temperatures. 이런 고온 때문에 지금 사투를 벌이는
Right.
그런 모습이고요.
And in the case of firefighters
Yeah.
and people who are working on the ground, they actually are fighting these fires and in some tragic cases losing their lives
Right.
to these extreme weather conditions.
Which is why it says, there's been dozens of wildfires. Well, these high temperatures and very dry conditions have triggered those wildfires.
Right. Trigger is a word that you may be familiar with. It's used as a verb and a noun. In this case, if you trigger something as a verb, it means you are causing a reaction to happen, usually a little bit suddenly or unexpectedly. And it can be a physical reaction. It can be an emotional reaction, some kind of mechanical reaction. In this case, these extreme temperatures are triggering or causing wildfires.
Right, exactly. 네, 촉발하다, 일으키다, causing, triggering, similar words. All right, well, here's the headline again. An intense heat wave in the eastern Mediterranean region has left countries including Greece, Cyprus, Albania, and Turkey battling record-setting temperatures and extreme dry conditions that have triggered dozens of wildfires. Let's move on to the next headline.
The U.S. city of San Francisco is experiencing its coldest summer since 1982, with only 2 days so far this season seeing temperatures hover above 21 degrees Celsius.
네, 미국 샌프란시스코가 올 여름 들어 올 여름 들어 기온이 섭씨 21도를 넘기는 날이 단 이틀일 정도로 1982년 이후 가장 쌀쌀한 여름을 겪고 있는 것으로 나타났습니다. Well, very different picture we're looking at here.
Right. So we have the opposite weather extreme here. On the other end of the spectrum, we go from hot in Turkey to cool in San Francisco, my hometown. This is the coldest summer since 1982. We've had 14 days this year, San Francisco has had 14 days this year with temperatures above 21 degrees Celsius, but only 2 of those have occurred in the summertime when it
Yeah.
is typically hot.
I mean, if it were 21 degrees right now, I would be loving it.
Oh, yes. Wouldn't you pay for that? I mean, that
That's
would be
just like
so
autumn
nice.
weather. Yeah, or
so
spring.
nice. You can just walk out wearing jeans and a shirt and not be sticky. Also, another remarkable thing is that July, which is typically the driest month for the San Francisco Bay Area, has in this case been wet for San Francisco standards. So we've had, there's been 4 rainy days in a row, which is quite a record for San Francisco. That rarely happens in the month of July. It's not a lot of rain, but it's quite wet for the region.
Interesting. They have an aquarium in the San Francisco area, a very big one. And I think one of the animated movies was based on that particular aquarium.
Okay.
So that's what I always think of when I
Is that
think
what
of
you
San Francisco. Of course, there's the
associate
Golden
with
Gate Bridge and everything too.
all
but
the other landmarks. If you've ever
may be wrong.
traveled, you've ever traveled to San Francisco or spent any amount of time there, you know that at least in the city, it's always it's always a little bit chilly.
Oh, right.
So no matter what month of the year it is, when I'm back home, I always have a jacket or a light windbreaker or some kind of shawl or scarf with me because I just remember growing up always being cold. And in this case, it is a very cool summer. But this time last year, it wasn't this cold. I just talked to my mom yesterday, and she was saying that it's definitely cooler this year.
Definitely. Oh, actually, I do stand corrected. It wasn't San Francisco. It was Monterey.
Oh, okay.
Still California, but very different region. Sorry about that.
No, not at all. But that's still in in Northern California.
Yeah.
So you're probably talking about the Monterey Bay Aquarium.
Yes, that's the one. Okay. I think it was Finding Nemo. You know that series? I think it was based on that aquarium.
Was based on that aquarium.
I believe so.
No way. You do know your Disney.
All right. Let's have a look at So Far This Season.
So far, this something. Whenever you say so far, you're saying up until that time, until that moment in time. So you can say so far this season, like in this article. That means up until that time in the season, this has been I said the coldest summer yet. You can fill in a different time period there.
Yeah.
So far this year, so far this month, so far, what else? So far
today?
Anything. So far today, right? You wouldn't have to put any this there, but so far today. So far this morning, we've received lots of messages.
Yeah. Exactly. So far, 지금까지, this season, 이번 시즌 들어, so far this season, San Francisco has only seen 2 days go above 21 degrees. A lot of our listeners are saying they are very jealous.
Jealous?
Well, because it's so hot in Korea.
Oh,
So they're
yes.
jealous of this mild temperature
Right.
in San Francisco. Although I guess maybe over there they're thinking it's not warm enough for the summertime.
Well, in
Yeah.
California, I feel like anything, we always say, growing up, we'd always say anything below 80 degrees was cold.
What's 80 degrees
Oh, I don't know
Fahrenheit?
what 80 degrees would be.
I'll have
but,
to look it up, yeah.
Californians are very weak
Yeah.
with anything below 80 degrees.
27 degrees Celsius.
Okay.
So then this would seem very cold then, I suppose.
Yes. If you've
Sunny California.
Yes, if you've ever seen reporting in LA, even the tiniest bit of rain will, be on the evening news. So, yes, I guess by
Interesting.
region, people
Right.
are used to different types of weather.
Got it. What about hovering above something?
Hover, Hover, is a verb that means to kind of float over. It means to be suspended in the air over something. You can say hover above, you can say hover over, both work. But it means when something is suspended in the air. It has to be in the air. It can't be on a surface. It has to be in the air over something. And it's usually not by like a lot, but just a little bit over. And it kind of stays there. The picture you can imagine is sort of like a drone these days. They kind of hover, they stay there, and yes, that's when it's used.
Physically, literally, 위에 떠 있다. And then figuratively, 맴돌다. So here we're talking about a number, so it's not a physical thing. 그러니까 21도 정도라는 거죠. Hovering above, actually. 그러면 21도를 웃도는 것을 얘기하지만, but if you have something like a drone, as you said, it's physically, floating around.
But just a little bit over, not like way over, but a little bit over. And if
Yeah.
we use it figuratively, which we do a lot, like if you're doing your homework and your mom or dad is hovering over your shoulder to see if you're doing it right, if your boss or supervisor at work is hovering over your shoulder, that is also the same type of situation.
Do you like that feeling?
Oh,
If someone's hovering above your shoulder, if someone's breathing down your neck.
Oh, yes, Sue, I love it. No, I should correct myself. That is actually a physical situation when your boss or somebody is hovering over. Figuratively, it would be like a mood. If there's tension in the air, it's hovering over the situation to describe a mood or feeling.
Got it. 다시 한번 제가 읽어보겠습니다. The U.S. city of San Francisco is experiencing its coldest summer since 1982, with only 2 days so far this season, seeing temperatures hover above 21 degrees Celsius. Let's move on to the next headline.
An American infant who was born 133 days before his due date and is now recognized as the most premature baby on record has recently celebrated his first birthday.
출산 예정일보다 133일이나 앞선 21주 만에 태어나 미숙아로서 기네스 세계기록에 등재된 미국의 한 아기가 얼마 전 첫 돌을 맞았습니다. 첫 번째 생일을 그래도 이렇게 건강하게 맞이했군요. Tell us more.
Yes, happy birthday, happy first birthday, happy dole to this little boy whose name is Nash. And he became one, which is a big accomplishment in anyone's life. But for this baby, it was especially so because he was born at just 21 weeks.
Which is very early.
Very early,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, because 40 weeks is the normal, time period for a baby to be born.
Right, the normal pregnancy term.
Yes.
But in this case, baby Nash was born 133 days before he was supposed to. Last year in July 2024, he was born weighing just 10 ounces, which, if that doesn't mean anything to you, that means he was smaller than a grapefruit.
Yeah, around 280 grams.
Oh my goodness.
Normally, kids weigh around, I'd say, 3.5 kilograms, 3 kilograms.
Is that
but,
right?
Yeah.
Okay.
But, under 300 grams is just
my
way too tiny.
That's like my chicken breast that I eat for lunch.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. I think our phones probably weigh around that. I'm not sure.
Probably,
Yeah.
but in any case, baby Nash was born weighing less than a grapefruit.
Yes.
And then he was immediately rushed to the ICU, to the intensive care unit. He had to spend 6 months there to recover. He had to grow. He had to develop like other babies, that are born after being, in the mom's stomach for 9 months. And then he was finally able to go home. So this is a huge milestone and something to be celebrated.
Okay. Well, we're talking about, all sorts of words related to childbirth. So let's look at 2 words here. What's due date?
Due date, D-U-E, due date. You can kind of do a softer do, and I've heard it kind of like a due date as well. That's a deadline. That's when something is supposed to happen. That's when something is scheduled to happen. We can use it, in terms of a pregnancy, but you can also use it for a deadline you have at work.
Yep.
Maybe it can be when a library book is due. These are all situations when you have a time in the future when something will happen.
네, 마감일이 될 수도 있고요. 뭐 만기일이 될 수도 있고요. 어떤 기한, 그 날짜를 영어로 due date. 발음은 2 가지 됩니다. Do you say do? Due date?
I'm more of a do.
due date.
Due date, but
되고,
due is fine
due
too.
date도 되고요. 자, 그런데 이제 출산 얘기를 할 때는 이게 바로 출산 예정일이 되겠습니다. Due date. What about premature?
Premature, you can see it in the word P-R-E means you can already tell from that beginning that it's happened a little bit before it was supposed to. If something is premature, it means it happened sooner or earlier than it was scheduled to, or before the proper time, expected time. You can use premature, this adjective, to describe events or actions, and in the case of baby Nash, births.
Yes. 예상보다 이른 것을 premature라고 하는데요. A premature birth or a premature baby. 그러면은 요즘 우리가 흔히 쓰는 말로 이른둥이라고도 하죠.
okay.
그러니까 조사나를
Okay.
말합니다.
I don't know if this is used in British English, but we refer to those babies as preemies.
Yes.
Is that true in...
Well, I know the term
English?
because I had 2 preemies.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if it's because it's used in England, but
You actually have experience with it.
I had to order preemie diapers because they don't have them like in your normal, supermarket or anything.
In regular sizes.
No, yeah, because I had to have tiny diapers, which they have in America. So I ordered them. I did the
my
tikku
goodness.
thing.
To get these extra tiny
tiny
diapers,
diapers, yeah.
that are for preemies,
Yes.
which is what we call babies born prematurely. It's not
right.
a bad expression. It just is a way to refer to them.
That's right. Well, here's the headline again. An American infant who was born 133 days before his due date and is now recognized as the most premature baby on record has recently celebrated his first birthday. That's it for the headlines with Janet Lee.
Korea's total population edged up in 2024 for the second year in a row, largely fueled by an increase in foreign residents, according to government data.
국내 거주 외국인 인구가 꾸준히 늘어난 영향으로 작년 우리나라 총 인구가 2년 연속 증가했다는 정부 발표가 나왔습니다. Tell us more.
Yeah, so it's definitely good news because we do hear about Korea's chronically low birth rate and aging population. So it does seem that the nation's population has edged up slightly in 2024, rising by 30,000 to reach 51.81 million. It was the second consecutive year of growth. The increase is largely driven by a surge in foreign residents, which topped 2 million for the first time, thanks to expanded work visa programs. Meanwhile, the number of South Korean nationals continued to decline, falling for the 4th straight year. The working age population also shrank, while those aged 65 and older surpassed 10 million, now making up nearly 20% of the population. The country's aging trend is accelerating, with the senior index climbing to 186.7. One-person households also hit a record high, now accounting for 36.1% of all homes.
All right, this is according to the latest data announced by Statistics Korea this week. The number itself is as of November 1st last year.
Yes.
But because it takes time to collect this sort of data.
Right.
It looks like compared to a year earlier, there's 30,000 more people in the country. And as you said, a lot of the people that have, attributed to this are foreign residents.
Right.
So to edge up basically means it's gone up but just a little bit because
Slightly.
30,000 isn't a huge number.
Right.
But, it's still significant. So to go up a little bit, slightly, to edge up, E-D-G-E, up. What about to do something in a row?
In a row, it means in succession, so it means consecutively. So, for example, for Chuseok, we get how many days off in a row?
Yeah, this year we're going to get a
lot.
Yeah, many days off, I think. If you can get that, Friday in between off at work, then you'll probably get a really long
over a week.
Vacation.
Yeah.
Yep. And to be fueled by something?
Right. So if something is fueled by something, it means that it's powered by something or supported by something. So it means that it's caused to move or maybe to operate or function due to the influence or action of something.
무엇을 원동력으로 하고 있다. Fuel is 연료. So, we have fuels in our car, for example, whether it's gasoline or otherwise. 그런 이제 연료라는 뜻이 원래는 있는데 fueled by 동사로 썼을 때는요. 그런 그 연료 덕분에 어떤 것을 원동력으로 하고 있다. 여기서는 외국인의 인구수가 늘었기 때문에 전체 국민의 인구수도 좀 늘었다고 볼 수 있습니다. 물론 외국인 수만 는 건 아니고요. 그렇지만 그 부분이 좀 컸다. This is how we could look at it. 뭐 촉발됐다라는 의미도 있는데 triggered by도 촉발됐다거든요. 어제 봤었던 단어인데 좀 다릅니다. 쓰임새가. If something is triggered, then we're looking at a negative situation a lot of the time. But to be fueled by is, very neutral.
Yeah.
And in this case, it's good. So here's the headline again. Korea's total population edged up in 2024 for the second year in a row, largely fueled by an increase in foreign residents, according to government data. Let's move on to the second headline.
9 out of 10 children in Korea have received all recommended vaccinations by their corresponding age, with the country's immunization rates exceeding those of other major countries by up to 19 percentage points, according to the Korea Disease Control and Prevention Agency.
질병관리청에 따르면 전국 어린이 10명 중 9명이 연령별 예방접종 횟수를 모두 채운 것으로 나타난 가운데 우리나라 예방접종률이 해외 주요 국가들보다 최대 19%포인트 높은 것으로 집계됐습니다. All right, let's have a look at this one then.
Yeah, so this is according to the KDCA. They say that full vaccination coverage in 2023 has reached over 93% for 1 and 2-year-olds and nearly 89% for 3 and 6-year-olds or 3 to 6-year-olds, while coverage for 2-year-olds rose slightly. There was a drop among 1-year-olds, and this was largely due to the rotavirus vaccine. Still, uptake of the rotavirus shot climbed to over 94%. And this all makes the nation outperforming countries like the U.S. in key vaccines, such as the HIV vaccine, with a coverage gap of nearly 19 percentage points.
Yep.
So the KDCA officials are continuing to stress the importance of timely vaccination in order to protect children from serious infectious diseases.
For those of our listeners that don't know, or maybe you're expecting, so you don't know this too well yet, but once you have a baby, there's this whole list of vaccinations you have to get for them over just a couple of years' time. There's so many vaccinations. But the good thing about Korea is that at the different pediatric hospitals or doctors, they send you text messages reminding you, now it's time for your baby to have this shot and that shot. And there's so many. But as you said, Korea is really ahead of other major economies around the world when it comes to making sure that the babies get these shots. I, for one, remember going to the doctors all the time.
Yeah.
It's constantly. Sometimes you would get a couple of shots in one go, and then another time it would be week after week or month after month. so many. But of course, it's, for the children's health.
Yeah, it's for their health and it's also for public health.
It is, that's right. Let's have a look at the word corresponding.
Yeah, corresponding. So it means it's directly related to something. Yeah, so it can also mean having the same characteristics as something else or matching something else.
Yes. So it says here that 9 out of 10 children, 90% of children in Korea have received all the recommended vaccinations by their 해당하는 나이, corresponding age.
Yeah.
So whether you're 1-year-old, 2-year-old, or 2 years old, rather, 3, 4, 5, whatever it is, at that age, you should have had X number of shots.
Yeah.
And in Korea, we're really good at keeping up.
Yeah.
Okay, what about immunization rates?
Immunization rates. It's also known as vaccination rate or immunization coverage, whichever you want to use. It refers to the percentage of a population that has received these recommended vaccines.
그래요. 자, 여기서 말하는 건 예방 접종률입니다. Immunization rates. Here's the headline one more time. 9 out of 10 children in Korea have received all recommended vaccinations by their corresponding age, with the country's immunization rates exceeding those of other major countries by up to 19 percentage points, according to the Korea Disease Control and Prevention Agency.
Korea's notoriously pesky summer mosquitoes, which are usually a constant nuisance in July, have been noticeably scarce this year, with experts attributing the decline to an unusually early heat wave and short rainy season.
우리나라에서 보통 7월에 기승을 부리는 성가신 여름 모기가 올해는 좀처럼 눈에 띄지 않는 이유에 대해 전문가들은 이례적으로 이른 무더위와 짧아진 장마가 맞물린 결과라는 분석을 내놨습니다. Yeah, I've definitely been seeing less mosquitoes this year than last year. Tell us more.
Yeah, I don't think I've gotten any mosquito. Knock on wood.
Right,
so
exactly.
far. So according to the Seoul Metropolitan Government, mosquito activity remains at level 2 or caution, which is far lower than usual for mid-July. Mosquitoes usually thrive in milder temperatures and consistent rain, but this summer's extreme heat has dried up breeding sites, while intense downpours further disrupted their habitats. And in contrast, last June, we saw mosquito activities peaking at maximum levels. Still, health officials warn the reprieve may be temporary. A spike in autumn mosquitoes could hit in late September, echoing patterns that were seen last year. I do remember there were a lot of mosquitoes seen later during this, I guess, when we were kind of skipping over into summer to early autumn. So maybe we'll see more mosquitoes towards that time, just like last year.
Exactly. So there's a 4-tier index, I guess.
Yeah.
And depending on how serious the mosquito situation is, level 4 is the most serious.
Yeah.
But normally around mid-July right now, we should be seeing a level 3 or level 4. But actually, it's just at level 2 right now, which means it's not serious
good,
at all. Yeah, not many mosquitoes. And the reason for that, number one, is because this suffocating heat wave, it started earlier than usual. And, as I said, it's stifling. It's probably too hot for the mosquitoes as well.
Yeah.
And then we also had a really short but intense rainy season. And mosquitoes do like damp conditions. We know that. But I guess it was just too much rain in that short amount of time. So again, it's not a good environment for mosquitoes to thrive in.
Yep.
All right, what about the word notoriously something?
Yeah, notoriously. It means you're famous
Yeah.
or very well known, but not in a good way. So you're well known for something really bad.
Notorious is similar to famous, but famous, it can be a good thing. It depends on the situation. Generally speaking, it's a good thing. But notorious is a bad, it's the bad version of famous.
Yeah.
그러니까 악명 높다라고 할 때는 형용사 notorious. 이제 부사가 여기서는 쓰였어요. notoriously.
Yes.
악명 높게 성가신, pesky. 그런 mosquitoes. You don't see them as much.
Yeah.
They're not that noticeable this year.
They're gone.
It actually says they are noticeably scarce. noticeably도 형용사로, 부사로 썼고요. scarce, 드물다. 자, 눈에 띄게 굉장히 드문 그런 모기인데 they're known to be a nuisance, aren't they?
Yeah, they're a nuisance. We said pesky. It's very similar
Yeah.
to the word pesky. When something or someone is a nuisance, it means that they cause inconveniences or annoyances to someone. Yeah.
좀 이제 성가신 거 그런 것들을 a nuisance라고 얘기합니다. How do you spell this word?
Oh, yeah, it's a little difficult to spell. It's N-U-I-S-A-N-C-E.
다시 읽어보겠습니다. Korea's notoriously pesky summer mosquitoes, which are usually a constant nuisance in July, have been noticeably scarce this year, with experts attributing the decline to an unusually early heat wave and short rainy season. Okay, let's move on to the next headline.
Thailand and Cambodia have agreed to an immediate and unconditional ceasefire after 5 days of fighting at their border resulted in dozens of fatalities and displaced tens of thousands.
태국과 캄보디아가 국경에서 5일 동안 벌인 무력 충돌로 수십 명의 사망자와 수만 명의 피난민이 나온 끝에 양국이 조건 없는 즉각적인 휴전에 합의했습니다. Tell us more.
Right, so they've agreed to this ceasefire after 5 days of border clashes that killed, they say, at least 33 people and have displaced over 270,000 people. And this truce was brokered in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, and it was backed by the country as well as ASEAN. And it comes after U.S. President Donald Trump warned that tariff talks would be suspended until the violence stopped. So fighting had erupted over a long-standing border dispute, with both sides blaming each other for the latest escalation. Rockets and artillery fire caused heavy civilian casualties, especially in Thai villages. While both governments have pledged to uphold the ceasefire, deep mistrust and rising national tensions may challenge peace efforts, they say. Regional monitors are expected to oversee military withdrawals and ensure that calm is restored.
Right. So the US president made it a condition for Thailand and Cambodia to stop fighting in order for trade talks to continue. All right, what's something that's immediate?
Immediate, it means that it is done at once or instantly, right now.
So it's not a ceasefire that's going to happen in a few months or weeks. It's now.
Yes.
지금 당장 즉각적인 immediate. 우리가 이제 즉각적으로 할 때는 immediately 이렇게 하죠. What about fatality?
Fatalities. So it's an occurrence of death by accident. We usually use this word when there is like a war going on or some sort of conflict going on. We can also use this when there is like a disease. So fatalities from a disease, fatalities from a war.
Fatalities. 이건 이제 사망자라는 뜻이 있습니다. fatality 자체가 그러니까 그런 사망자 수라고 볼 수 있고요. fatal 하다 그러면 치명적이다. So these attacks are obviously fatal because there's firing involved. All right, well, let me read the headline again. Thailand and Cambodia have agreed to an immediate and unconditional ceasefire after 5 days of fighting at their border resulted in dozens of fatalities and displaced tens of thousands. Let's move on to the final headline.
A massive outbreak of toxic algae off South Australia has devastated hundreds of species of marine life and disrupted local tourism and fishing, with the state premier Peter Malinauskas declaring it a natural disaster.
남호주에서 발생한 독성 조류가 대규모로 확산하면서 수백 종의 해양 생물이 폐사하고 지역 관광산업 및 어업도 큰 피해를 입자 주 총리가 현 상황을 자연재해로 봐야 한다는 입장을 내놨습니다. 여기서 그 algae라고도 하는데요. 이 algae라는 것은 그 물 속에 사는 그 이끼 같은 이런 식물들 있죠. 그 뭐 조류라고 하는데 이제 우리말도 사실 조류가 한자에 따라서 여러 의미가 있기 때문에 좀 혼란스러울 수 있어서 설명을 드렸습니다. Right, tell us more.
Yeah, so it's a massive toxic algal bloom, and they say that it's killed over 400 marine species, and it has now been declared a natural disaster. It was first detected in March, and this bloom has spread across 4,500 square kilometers, and it's linked to a marine heat wave with ocean temperatures 2.5 degrees Celsius above normal. So this algae, it suffocates marine life by damaging fish gills and depleting oxygen in the water. And the outbreak has forced shellfish farms to close and hit local tourism hard. A combined $28 million support package from state and federal governments. It's going to fund the cleanup, research, and business recovery efforts. And while officials call it a severe environmental crisis, they say that it has yet to be declared a national disaster.
Okay. It says it's a massive outbreak.
Yeah.
So an outbreak of something is when a disease or something harmful spreads. But what's a massive outbreak?
Right. So when something is massive, it means that it is exceptionally large.
거대한, 엄청나게 큰, 그러니까 심각한이라고도 해석할 수 있겠죠.
Yeah.
And it's devastated many marine species.
Yeah, when something devastates something, it means that it has destroyed or ruined something.
파괴하는 것을요, destroying이라고 하죠. 비슷한 말, devastating이라고 쓸 수 있는데, we also use this word for situations where we feel
Yes.
devastated.
Yes.
And that means, you know, sort of hearts, I don't know, they feel like they're hurt and something.
We feel at a loss.
At a loss, yeah. 그래요. 우리도 이제 마음에 큰 상심을 입었다든지 아니면은 상당히 좌절감이 든다든지 이럴 때 I'm devastated. This is devastating. 이렇게 표현을 할 수가 있죠. Alright, well here's the headline again. A massive outbreak of toxic algae off South Australia has devastated hundreds of species of marine life and disrupted local tourism and fishing, with the state premier, Peter Malinauskas, declaring it a natural disaster. And that's it for the headlines with Karen Choi.
The International Monetary Fund has downgraded Korea's 2025 growth outlook to 0.8% just 3 months after its last revision, while raising the 2026 forecast to 1.8%.
국제통화기금 IMF가 올해 한국 경제 성장률 전망치를 불과 석 달 전에 수정했던 1.0%에서 0.8%로 다시 하향 조정하는 한편 내년 성장률은 직전 전망값보다 0.4%포인트 오른 1.8%로 관측했습니다. So, a rosier forecast for next year, but not so much for this year.
That is correct. So the IMF projected that South Korea's real gross domestic product will expand 0.8% in 2025. That is down from their April forecast, which was 1%. So down, what's that, 0.2%.
그래요. 사실 영어에서는 이렇게 그냥 퍼센트 포인트 대신에 퍼센트라고만 생략해서 얘기하는 경우가 많이 있긴 있는데 지금 같은 경우 기존 전망치였던 1.0%에서 0.2%포인트 떨어진 0.8%로 이제 하향 조정한 거죠. 그래서 엄밀히 따지면은 퍼센트와 퍼센트 포인트가 좀 차이가 있기는 한데 영어에서는 그냥 뭐 번갈아 가면서 쓰더라고요.
Yeah.
네. 그래서 그냥 알아서 이해를 뭐 해야 되는 상황인 것 같습니다. 여기서 이제 0.8% 미국과 캐나다에서는 0.8% 이렇게 하는데 영국에서는요 0.8%라고 해서
What?
Not.
Not?
Have
Really?
you heard of not?
No, I've never heard that before.
Oh, well, that's why, you know, the 2000s,
Yeah.
the nickname for the 2000s was the noughties.
Oh, really?
Because it was like 00, right? Yeah. I don't know how you spell that. Maybe N-A-U-G-H-T, because you never really spell it. You say
Yeah.
it. It might be N-O-U-G-H-T. I'm not entirely sure, because once again, I've never really had to write it down, because when you write it down, it's a number, right?
So anytime you have like a zero or
Point
or,
something.
Okay,
Yeah,
it can
you
be
know,
it can be a not.
Yeah, 0. something. 그래요. 그래서 영국에서는 이렇게 표현을 합니다. 그래서 2000년대를 그 not, 그 zero가 들어간 그 10년이라고 해가지고 naughties. And naughty also sounds like you're naughty. You know,
Yeah.
약간 뭐라 그럴까요? 개구진다는
You're bad.
그런 느낌이 있죠. 발음만 들었을 때는. All right. That was a little tidbit there. And what's downgrading something?
If you are downgrading something, you are lowering something, making something worse, perhaps, as well, or lessening. So the opposite we hear quite often as well, upgrading, right? If you buy an airplane ticket and maybe they're full in economy class, that you might get upgraded to first class, you'll hear quite often. But if you get downgraded, then you are in a better situation, but now you're in a worse situation.
우리도 외래어로 많이 쓰죠. downgrade, upgrade. 그래가지고 downgrading means you going down a level or a grade or a class, and the opposite would be to upgrade something. You upgrade your phones as well, right, as you
Yes.
go. What about revision?
A revision is a change. If you're changing something,
Yeah.
the biggest difference, I think, I don't think I would use the word revision when I'm talking with my close friends about things. Like, we'll just say, "Oh, I'm going to change this." Okay.
Yeah, I'm going to revise this. Is very formal.
Yeah, exactly. So usually it's used more in a business setting. It is a little bit more formal. If you're writing an essay, then you'll want to use words like revision compared to change. But ideally, it's the same sort of thing.
revise가 수정한다라는 굉장히 포멀한 용어입니다. 그래서 revision도 마찬가지 수정이라는 뜻인데 일상 대화에서보다는 이런 격식 있는 뉴스라든지 아니면 비즈니스 이메일 내지는 좀 포멀한 대화를 할 때 revision 쓰면 되겠죠. 수정, 변경이라는 뜻입니다. All right, let me read it one more time. The International Monetary Fund, the IMF, has downgraded Korea's 2025 growth outlook to 0.8% just 3 months after its last revision, while raising the 2026 forecast to 1.8%. Now let's move on to the second headline.
More than 1 million foreign nationals visited Korea last year for various medical treatments and procedures, spending over 1.4 trillion won and setting a new record for the country's medical tourism industry.
지난해 한국에서 진료받은 외국인 환자 수가 사상 처음으로 100만 명을 돌파한 가운데 이들은 의료비로 1조 4천억 원 이상을 쓴 것으로 집계됐습니다. Tell us more.
Yeah, a total of 1.17 million individuals have come to Korea in 2024, nearly doubling the previous year. So an awful lot of people have come to Korea for medical treatments. I can tell you that my parents come all the time for medical treatments. You know what? I guess now they're considered Korean again. They've reestablished their Korean citizenship at this age. But I know tons of different friends and family members that visit Korea quite often for medical treatment. So I see it.
Yeah, because we have some of the best doctors in the world.
Yes.
But it's also affordable.
And you can get it quickly.
Oh, yeah.
Because, in the U.S., as an example, medical treatment is very, very expensive. On the other hand, in Canada, it's absolutely free or practically free. However, because it's free, you have to wait forever or you can't get the treatment you want because they don't consider it life-threatening. And because of that, they're like, no, we don't think that's important enough for you to pay for that for you. So then people like that, they'll come to Korea. It's like, can I get this done? Oh, no problem. How much is it going to cost? Well, not the same as the U.S. anyways.
Right,
okay, yeah,
right.
let's go to Korea and get this done.
Exactly. It's the same for the UK as well. Like you said, in Canada, the hospital fee itself might not cost you much or nothing at all, but you do have to wait for a very, very long time. And maybe you don't have that much time to wait. So, Korea is the much better option in that case.
Yeah, I remember my mom had a lump on her shoulder, and it was basically non-cancerous. And because it wasn't cancerous, they said, look, that's not essential. It would be considered cosmetic surgery to get it removed. So the national healthcare was like, no, you're going to have to just live with that lump on your shoulder. It's like, okay, no, I'm going to go to Korea and get it removed. I don't care if I have to pay a little bit of money, but let's do that. And her flight here to get it removed and go back would have been cheaper than a drive across the border to the U.S. as an example.
Exactly. So when you have a tumor or a cyst or something, and as you said, it's non-cancerous, do you use the word benign in that situation?
That's right.
And to say it's not dangerous, basically, or it's not fatal. Okay, B-E-N-I-G-N, I think is the spelling of that word. You can use it for, cysts, tumors, things like that, that are not very dangerous. 그러니까 뭐 음성이 되겠죠, 우리말로 하자면은. What is various something? What is that word?
So various basically means more than one, but the feel is a little bit different because I think of like a variety. I think of a lot of different choices. So it could be just 2 or 3, but it's not really the number that's important here as much as I would feel like the selection, the possibilities. So it's like when you go to a buffet, there are various dishes that you can choose from. It might be like 8 or 20 or 50, you're still going to use various, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be like 2 or 5 or 20. It doesn't really matter in terms of the number.
Exactly. Morning Special has listeners of various ages and backgrounds.
Levels.
And levels as well, yeah. 다양한, various. What is a procedure?
A procedure in this particular situation is talking about a medical procedure. And when we talk about medical procedures, it's just something that you're getting done that a doctor is treating you for in whatever way. Now, the actual definition for procedure is when you're going through a series of steps or techniques or things in order to get something done. You're following a procedure. It's almost like following a recipe. Like these are the directions of what you're supposed to do. And I guess when it comes to, let's say, surgery, it's probably the same thing anyways. You're following certain steps in the surgery to get something done. So you're following, it's sort of like a recipe of things that you're doing.
So normally the word procedure would be like 과정. However, if it's a medical procedure, then you're talking about a 시술 or a 수술. And these are the procedures that about 1 million people from overseas received in Korea last year. So if you do the math, I guess that means on average per person, they spent just under 1 million won. So 1 million people, they spent over
$1 billion.
1 trillion won. So, actually, a little more than 1 million then, I guess, on average. Okay. Well, here's the headline again. More than 1 million foreign nationals visited Korea last year for various medical treatments and procedures, spending over 1.4 trillion won and setting a new record for the country's medical tourism industry.
The Chinese government has announced it will provide parents with annual subsidies of 3,600 yuan, or approximately 700,000 won per child under the age of 3, as part of efforts to boost the country's birth rate.
중국 정부가 출산 장려 목적으로 자국 내 부모들에게 3살 미만 자녀 1명당 연간 3,600위안, 우리 돈으로 약 70만 원 상당의 현금성 육아 보조금을 지급한다고 발표했습니다.
Isn't that weird to hear that China wants more babies? They used to have the one-child policy, years ago.
Restricting people.
Yeah, but, China's population has declined for 3 consecutive years now. They are now the world's 2nd most populous nation. Of course, they used to be number 1, but now India has the most people in the world. So they are now also facing a demographic crisis.
Yeah,
and,
definitely.
Marriage rates in China have also hit record lows. So a situation that they have there, and this is one of the ways they're trying to figure that out.
All right, let's have a look at the word subsidy, first of all.
Subsidy is usually a money of sorts, an amount of money that is provided by the government or a public office of some sort in order to help a particular group of people. It could be for educational purposes. Quite often we see it like scholarships can be subsidized or a subsidy of sorts as well. It could be anytime you're putting money towards a group of people to help them out.
And this is given out by either the government or some sort of foundation or institute. 이렇게 국가나 기관이 제공하는 보조금, 장려금을 subsidy, S-U-B-S-I-D-Y. And what is boosting something?
If you boost something or someone, you're essentially trying to lift them up. You're
Yeah.
trying to raise them. Physically, you can do that as well. You can physically boost a person. I think of it as like, someone's trying to get over a fence or a wall, and you might kind of push them in the butt just to kind of help lift them over. Hey, I'll boost you. I'll give you a boost.
Yeah.
And you're kind of helping them get over something. But that's the physical visualization of it. But anything that's boosted, you're raising something up. It could be a number. It could be a dollar figure. It could be a lot of different things.
I don't know if you ever used this when your kids were really young, but there's something called a booster seat in Korea.
Yes.
So, our average chairs, they're just too low for babies to sit on. So they have these extra these things that you seat the babies in and they get a little higher up, I guess.
Yeah. Quite often, kids, when you go to the doctors at a young age, they'll have a booster shot.
Yes.
And that is going to raise your immune system. So it's
right.
improving that. So you're kind of like lifting, raising, improving something whenever you're getting boosted.
Absolutely. 자, 그러니까 뭔가 끌어올린다라는 뜻으로 많이 쓰고요. 신장시키다가 될 수도 있습니다. 자, 다시 한번 읽어볼까요? The Chinese government has announced it will provide parents with annual subsidies of 3,600 yuan or approximately 300,000 won per child under the age of 3 as part of efforts to boost the country's birth rate. Here's our next headline.
Microsoft has said it is teaming up with the French government to create a digital replica of Paris's Notre Dame Cathedral, France's most visited monument, that will serve as a record of the building's architectural details.
마이크로소프트사가 프랑스 정부와 협력해 프랑스 최대 관광 명소인 파리 노트르담 대성당의 디지털 복제본을 만든다고 밝혔습니다. 이는 앞으로 성당 건물의 건축 내부 사항을 기록하는 역할을 할 것으로 보입니다. Tell us more.
Yeah, so it's, of course, one of the most famous buildings in France, minus the Eiffel Tower, you would think. 862 years old, and it recently reopened after a 5-year restoration project after a fire that it went through back in 2019. And I think that might be part of the reason that they're doing this. So they have the permanent records of the architectural design of everything in a digital state. So it's much easier to recreate it. And they've done this for other famous monuments or buildings as well.
Oh, which ones?
So in Greece, the ancient Olympia. In Greece, the Mont Saint-Michel. In France, they've done that for the Allied beach landings of Normandy from World War II. So they've done this for certain places as well. When I was reading this, I was kind of thinking, man, they should have done it for Sungnemun back in the day before the fire, as an example. But I mean, I guess this is like the new thing that they're making virtual versions.
Exactly. So the big question is, what is a replica?
A replica is a copy of something. It is not the original. I think we talked about original maybe a week or two ago. Original is like the first thing that everything is copying, and a replica would be the copy of it. So it's not the exact thing that was originally made, but it's a copy of it. It's something that's made to be like something.
R-E-P-L-I-C-A, replica가 바로 복제된 물건, 어떤 이제 모형이라고도 볼 수 있겠죠. So they're going to make a digital replica of the Notre Dame Cathedral. 그래서 디지털 복제본을 만든다고 합니다. What about the word monument?
A monument is like a building, structure. It could be a statue, something that is made usually to honor or remember something or someone. So, you probably hear the word, the Washington Monument is heard quite a bit. If you're in Washington, D.C., it's one of the buildings in the Washington, D.C. area near the White House. That's kind of there. It's a big, tall tower that people remember. And there's different things. It could be a statue, like the Statue of Liberty could be considered a monument. Certainly Sungnaemun would be a monument. It's something that's built and kind of there for a long time for people to remember something.
보통은 무언가 기념하기 위해서 만든 건축물을 monument라고 하죠. Here's the headline again. Microsoft has said it is teaming up with the French government to create a digital replica of Paris's Notre Dame Cathedral, France's most visited monument, that will serve as a record of the building's architectural details. And here's our final headline.
Chilean authorities have handed over to the U.S. Federal Bureau of Investigation 6 valuable watches belonging to Canadian actor Keanu Reeves, recovered in a police raid after being stolen from his Los Angeles home during a series of high-profile burglaries in 2023.
재작년 말 미국에서 벌어진 연쇄 절도 사건 도중 배우 키아누 리브스가 로스앤젤레스 자택에서 도난당했던 고급 시계 6점이 회수됐습니다. 이 시계들은 칠레 당국이 범인들을 붙잡은 뒤 넘겨받아 미 연방 수사국 FBI에 인계한 것으로 알려졌습니다. All right. Tell us more.
Yeah, so this was quite a big story a few years back. I didn't know that Keanu Reeves was involved in this as well, but a lot of famous athletes in particular had their homes burglarized while they were away because, athletes, they play on the road quite a bit.
Yeah.
So, sometimes they play in their city, but sometimes they play in another city. So when certain people knew that those homeowners were going to be out of town, they were robbing their homes. And it was discovered that a lot of these robberies were being taken advantage of by a group of Chileans of organized crime. And I guess one of the houses that they burglarized was Keanu Reeves's, in which they stole 6 watches valued at $125,000.
Wow. Well, the watches were recovered in a police raid. What's that?
So a raid is an attack of sorts. It's usually quite sudden or unexpected. And a police raid would be when the police are suddenly attacking a group of people. And I don't want to make that seem like they're attacking people. It's usually they're suddenly breaking into a home after they have a permit in order to capture somebody. So it's not like an attack where they're trying to cause harm, but they're unexpectedly with a warrant trying to enter a facility of some sorts in order to arrest somebody.
Right. 경찰이 현장을 급습하는 것을요. Police raid, R-A-I-D라고 하고 what about a burglary?
A burglary is when somebody is stealing something or something has been stolen. I think, we think of burglaries and being robbed as the same thing. I kind of feel like sometimes you can be robbed with force. Like you might pull out a weapon and say, give me your watch, give me your money. Then, you're being robbed. I find that with burglary, more often you're trying to do it in a sneaky way when nobody is home. So usually you're trying to do it without threatening anybody, but you're just kind of stealing possessions of people when they're not looking or they're not, paying attention, that sort of thing.
In cartoons, I don't know why, but burglars always wear something over their eyes and then they have black and white striped shirts. Maybe it's just the cartoons I watched when I was younger, or maybe it's them after they're in prison. I can't remember exactly, but I have that image of, the black eye masks and the stripy clothes.
It is true. Yeah, you do kind of, it is an image that comes to mind and usually because again, it's not like they're trying to steal from you with guns and knives. They're trying to do it kind of in a sneaky fashion when you aren't home, or they're kind of trying to burglarize homes with people that aren't there.
burglary, B-U-R-G-L-A-R-Y, 절도죄가 되겠고요. 빈집 털이. 그래서 이런 절도범은 burglar. All right, here's the headline again. Chilean authorities have handed over to the U.S. Federal Bureau of Investigation, or FBI, 6 valuable watches belonging to Canadian actor Keanu Reeves, recovered in a police raid after being stolen from his LA home during a series of high-profile burglaries in 2023. Well, that's it for the headlines with Jason.